Welcome in, guys, to the Full Force Fathers podcast. Thanks for coming back in to check us out. Just wanted to start off the show with my co-host Dave. I am Brett. And we wanted to start off the show today just with a big thank you. A thank you to all of those that listened or downloaded or watched on YouTube to our first episode from last week. We really appreciate it. It means a lot to us. I've heard, received some texts, Dave, some emails, and it's been nothing but positivity. So I'm super excited about it. You have any thoughts on that first release?
Yeah, agreed. I heard from people on social media, people that I didn't even know that had it passed along to them from other people. So thank you for sharing it. Thank you for reviewing it and leaving us some ratings. We really do appreciate it. And for us, last week was really our starting point. It was us going for it, turning on the mics and the cameras and putting out the content for the first time. And we shared with you, what it was like to start these journeys, both on the fitness side and the personal finance side. So we've kind of uncovered some of that to start. Where do you start? How do you do it? And now, Brett, I want you to start telling everybody, what's the best place to continue along that path in fitness?
Absolutely. One more point I want to make on a couple of those texts and thank yous. I actually had one of my wife's friends, a mother, listened into the show and gave me a thumbs up text message. And I told her, I said, I thought the only two wives that were going to listen to our podcast was Dave's and mine. I didn't know we were going to have, wives and mothers out there listening in.
I know, it's great. Casey had a coworker too who sent in a comment saying that she was going to send it off to her son. So I thought that was wonderful. That's great. Welcome in, ladies. Come join the party too.
Listen, it's called Full Force Fathers, but ladies, join the party. We'd love to have you in. Yes. So hey, the saying goes, happy wife, happy life, Dave. So we want to make sure that those mothers that want to hop in, feel free. So so to your point as to, last week was where to start and then how to continue. Right. So it starts with the look in the mirror. How to continue for your, especially on your fitness journey and your wellness journey, your health journey, whatever you want to call it. I think there's no better place to start than with your morning routine, Dave. And what I mean by starting with your morning routine is it just gives you a foundation, for your day moving forward every day. Start in the morning. You get a good groove. You get maybe a little workout in. You get a little dose of health and wellness in there. And I think it's super, super important because it's going to make you so much more productive, Dave, throughout your day if you have a rock solid morning routine. I don't feel that winging it every morning is going to give you the results that you're looking forward to, especially when we're starting off on our health and wellness journeys. Dave, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. Momentum is a very real thing. So as I'm sure you're going to dive into here, those little wins that you can, build on in the morning are going to carry on throughout the entire day. And it's the same thing with personal finance. You need to get little wins throughout the process to keep the momentum going and to keep your confidence level high. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I want to say this before, because I'll talk about my morning routine here in just a few minutes. But my morning routine is not going to be the same for your morning routine. My morning routine and Dave, we don't have the same routines. A morning routine, Dave, is not a one size fits all. I know what works well for me. You know what works well for you. And what, Joe from Indiana, his routine may work for him. So they're not one size fits all, to say the least, when it comes to morning routine. I think it's more or less built on the foundations of having one in place makes you more productive and makes you have more energy, less stress, get through your workday. Dave mentioned you're going to accomplish lots of little wins throughout the day. And on your fitness journey, getting wins, little wins, like washing your face, drinking some water, going for a walk with the dog, those little wins add up big time, because the hardest part of a finance journey as to where to begin and how to continue, and the same with your fitness journey, is being discouraged. Because if your fitness goal, like we mentioned, is to lose 100 pounds and that's not going to happen overnight, the easiest thing that can happen to you, Dave, is you're going to get discouraged from that goal. I'm not quite sure. You can maybe relate a little better when it comes to the finance side of discouragement and not having your finances in order and maybe not seeing the big payoffs and all that stuff right away. But having those little wins adds up. You get some self-confidence and some morale built inside of you with your morning routine.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, I've heard so many people say over the years, I never should have gotten out of bed this morning. I had so many failures and things that went wrong that I just should have stayed in bed. It was one of those days, right? Quote, one of those days. Well, the fact of the matter is, if you can wake up and have a routine that you do every single day that you can chalk those up as wins, well, you're already started off on the right foot, and it's a good thing you got out of bed, and we should all be happy for that. So those are the things that you can build on. They might seem really small, but mentally they make a big impact as you head out the door and go on to the rest of your day.
Yes, absolutely. And as to where to begin your morning routine, start by setting an alarm clock in the morning. That's pretty simple. Everyone's got a phone, or maybe you have an old alarm clock on the side of your bed. Set an alarm. My father still sets his alarm from his AM FM clock radio every single day, and he's in his 60s. I remember being a kid, Dave, and having that little, that little alarm clock, or night, FM radio would kick on in the morning. But nowadays with iPhones, you can set 15 alarms if you want. You can set them down practically to the second. But start by setting an alarm. And when you do set that alarm, actually get out of bed for the alarm. Don't just hit the snooze button and hit the snooze. Listen, we're all guilty of hitting the snooze button. I know I am, but the whole point of an alarm is to get up and to get moving and get your day started. Because what's the point of setting the alarm if you're just going to turn it back off and roll back over and go to sleep?
Yeah, you might as well just stay in bed and set the alarm for 10 minutes later. I never understood the snooze.
Yes. So if you're thinking about setting your alarm for 5:30 in the morning, but you're going to snooze it, set it for 5:45. I promise you. Then you're not going to hit the snooze button. You're going to get that extra 15 minutes if that's what you're looking for. Yeah. Because the alarm is that. It's an alarm to get up, to get moving. And as soon as you get up and get moving, start your day with a glass of water. You don't realize how much you lose in hydration when you sleep just from breathing. And it's going to most people think, oh, I'm going to get hydrated. But actually, maybe the most key important part of drinking a glass of water in the morning is for your brain. Your brain is made up of 75% water. And when you're losing all that water when you're sleeping and you don't think you are, by drinking that glass of water in the morning, it's going to get your brain fired right up and get you rolling and getting you out of bed. It's going to get you thinking. It's going to clear your memory. And if there's any fog from your sleep, it's going to get you going. It's going to get you hydrated, because you really want your brain and your body to operate as soon as you get up in the morning. We know if you just kind of got almost like a little bit of lag to your day, you got, sleepy bugs in your eyes and you're just kind of lollygagging through your morning, just get up and drink that glass of water. Make it nice and cold so it really wakes you up. I know plenty of guys that take cold showers to get themselves awake in the morning, and they help with inflammation and the blood flow and all that. But really, we should be starting off with a glass of water every single morning, Dave, when we wake up. What do you do next? After you have that glass of water?
You asking me what I do next?
Yeah. So anybody, this is where the interaction comes in from. After that glass of water, what do you do next?
I mean, for me, I want to get in the bathroom. I want to get my teeth brushed. I want to feel like I'm not still sleeping in bed. I think that's a big one for me. I know that might sound ridiculous, but that's something I need to get moving before I can really do anything. So it's that. And then I like to get a workout done in the morning. So I fit that in somewhere before I leave the house.
Right. Absolutely. Personal hygiene is a big thing, guys. Getting in that bathroom and washing your face and brushing your teeth. You may think it doesn't do wonders for you, but I do promise you this: once you slap some cold water on your face in the morning, you're really gonna feel a big difference. And in terms of my morning routine, I'm gonna go through it here, Dave, a little bit. Ask me some questions about my morning routine as I go along. My morning routine, like I said, no two morning routines are the same. Mine's gonna maybe sound a little bit long. I don't think it's all that long because I've been doing it for so long. But after that glass, okay, it's long. It's a little bit long, but it does serve its purpose.
And it's one of those things that you can build on it. You don't have to start with everything. You start with a few things, and you start to build. You've been doing it for so long that you keep adding these things in, and they don't take much time, but it seems like a lot on the surface.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. It has to be a buildable schedule. You got to be able to add things. You got to be able to take things away. And it's also a great time to experiment with different things. What works, what clicks, what doesn't click for your morning routine. My morning routine is really, I try to hit all the bases of Full Force Fathers in the morning. I get my fitness involved. I get my finances involved, and I get my faith involved, because I read every morning. I read the Bible every single morning, but to kind of give you an order of how it goes, after I get up and wash my face and brush my teeth, I head off to the kitchen. I let the dog out in the morning. The dog needs to go outside. She's been inside all night sleeping. The dog goes outside. I walk out, and it gives me a nice, fresh kick in the face of fresh air. And there's really no different when you get that first deep breath of morning air. If the cold water in your face didn't wake you up, go walking outside, especially on the East Coast in the wintertime, Dave, it gets pretty cold out there in the morning. Sometimes I don't want to follow the dog outside, let me tell you.
Yeah, that'll wake you up in a hurry.
Oh, it wakes me up in a hurry, especially when you get 30 degrees or 25 degrees or snow or rain. You wake up really quickly in the morning after that. And after I let the dog out, I come inside, and that's when I start my health and wellness portion of my morning routine. I start in the kitchen, and I'm in the kitchen for roughly 10 minutes or so, and it starts with apple cider vinegar. I don't want to go into all the benefits besides I can tell you it keeps your bathroom regular, it keeps your pH level nice and steady, and I'm convinced, Dave, most people don't like drinking apple cider vinegar. For me,
I hate it.
I know you hate it, and my wife hates it too. She only drinks it if she doesn't feel well. And I try to tell her, if you drink it every day, you don't have to worry about not feeling well, because I truly believe it's a magic potion. It keeps me from catching any colds. It keeps me from catching any kind of sickness or flu, or over this past year, COVID. I really truly feel by having that kickstart my morning, it keeps me going on the healthy path. After the apple cider vinegar, I jump into lemon. I have fresh lemon every single morning. I get my daily dose of vitamin C from a natural fresh lemon. I don't need to take any powder vitamin C or any supplements for my vitamin C. If you just freshly squeeze lemon into a glass, or put the lemon right in your mouth and chomp on it, you're going to get all the vitamin C you need for the day. And I do enjoy a little bit of orange juice with it. Maybe cuts a little bit of the sting and the sourness of the lemon out, Dave, when I go with that orange juice.
It sounds like a very painful morning to me right here. Apple cider vinegar and a lemon straight in the mouth. But I see the benefits, but boy, that's a tough one to get used to.
Well, listen, I can only attest, Dave, that I'm healthy. I know I'm a healthy guy.
You are, and you never get sick. So I will say that.
Knock on wood, I don't ever get sick. And I've been doing this morning routine for so many years that I can't even count anymore. And it's kept me good and healthy. And then I finish with raw honey. I think raw honey is a little bit under what's the word I'm looking for? It's it's a great tool, underappreciated. That's what it is. It's underappreciated because it's full of natural antioxidants that help keep you healthy. And after the honey, I take a teaspoon of elderberry syrup every single morning. It's an immunity booster. Another thing where if you feel like you're catching a cold, take a couple teaspoons of elderberry syrup, and I promise you it works, and it helps you get better. Get out of the kitchen after 10 or 15 minutes. And then that's my favorite part of my morning routine, Dave, is when I get to sit down and read. I pour myself a cup of coffee, black coffee, and I sit down, turn the lamp on because it's still pitch black outside, and I get to drink a cup of coffee, and I start with my Bible every single morning. That's the first reading that I do every day. I thank the Lord above for all my blessings every single morning, because we are truly blessed, especially as fathers. We're blessed. We were blessed with kids and children, and there's no better gift from God than that. So I count my blessings every morning as I sit down to read my Bible. And it brought me, Dave, into a Bible verse that I wanted to touch base with real quick.
Sure.
And Proverbs 15, verse 22 is what I want to just read. It's a very short proverb, guys, that I'm going to read here. And then Dave and I are going to kind of go into it a little bit before I hop back into the rest of my morning routine. But it's kind of hits the sweet spot right now. So Proverbs 15, verse 22 says, "Plans fail for a lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed." And I attest that. And when I read that out of the Bible, I think we as fathers, Dave, all can succeed when we benefit from each other. It's so much easier if you have a group of other dads or just a group of rock solid people to help you succeed in your finance journey, your fitness journey, and your faith journey. And if you don't, like it says in the beginning of the verse, those plans can fail for a lack of counsel. Sometimes it's just too hard, Dave, to go alone and do some of this stuff. And you need a little bit of help along the way.
Yeah, you need cheerleaders in your corner. No matter how strong you are independently, it always helps when you have someone there to support you, encourage you, and help you in, through those lulls. And I think that's exactly what we're doing here by creating this group, Full Force Fathers, and living a full force life. By doing that and following this lifestyle change for whatever area of your life you might need it, you've got people there to support you. Brett and I bring this content every day on our daily tips, every week in the podcast, and we want you to interact. We want you to ask questions. We want you to utilize us as that support system. And then the other fathers that join, use those experiences that other people have had and really use it to strengthen what you're doing and to continue pushing on through those tough times.
Absolutely. It's the spot on way to interpret it. And that's why faith is such an important part, because I think when we read the Bible and we read different verses and different chapters of the Bible, we're all going to relate to it, Dave, just a little bit different. We're all going to interpret a little bit different, but it brings us together as one. And especially as fathers, I think that's the most important factor we can do, is just to be there for each other. We're full force fathers, which means we're there to lend a shoulder to cry on. We're there to give you a high five. We're there for advice. We're there for everything. We're always in charge of our lives with each other and including each other in that process. And so that's my little Bible verse. And I'm going to continue on. After I read my Bible every morning, I read about 20 or 25 minutes of it's always nonfiction. And a good amount of the times I'm usually reading books on self-improvement, self-help, anything that expands my knowledge, anything that can educate me a little bit, make my brain a little bit stronger and a little bit smarter. I think it's a key component to everybody's life that they should read a little bit more. I think we can all turn the TV off a little bit more, Dave, and expand our brains.
Well, this is one of the areas that our morning routines differ. For myself, I like to read before bed. It calms me down, quiets my mind because my mind's always racing. So it's a good opportunity for me to just wind down, learn something, and then close my eyes at night. So I will shift that out of my morning routine and put it into my, routine before bed. But I agree. Picking up, a book, learning something, expanding your brain, really building on the things that you already know into more. And really exposing yourself to some ideas maybe that you hadn't thought of before. It's such a great way to grow as a person. And I certainly think everyone should read at least 10 pages a day, but 20, 30 minutes is really, really perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. But as long as you're reading, that's all that matters. If you read in the morning, if you read at lunch, if you read at night, the big thing is that you're reading. And then to kind of finish off my marathon of a morning routine that Dave, see, like I said,
we're at my lunchtime now.
We're at lunchtime. And I knew it sounds like a lot. It does sound like a lot, and it does sound a little bit overwhelming, but to reiterate the point that not everyone's morning routine is going to be the same. They're all going to be different. They're all going to have their little nuances. I always finish my morning routine off with a workout. I then put my book down. I get the dog outside, and I usually do 10 to 15 minutes of light cardio. Could be a walk, could be a light jog. If I'm feeling frisky, I'll throw my weight vest on and do a little morning ruck. But it's not a whole lot. It's really just to get moving and get flowing and break a sweat and know that I'm accomplishing something. And as soon as I'm done with that cardio, I jump into my daily standard, which is just 500 reps of push-ups, sit-ups, squats, and bicep curls. I do that every single day in my morning, Dave, because I know sometimes, and you can attest to this, that the day sometimes will get away from you. And the last thing you want is Brett grumpy not getting a workout in.
Well, absolutely, right? I mean, things come up during the day all the time. So the last thing you want is to be at the end of your day and know that, what, I needed to get my workout in today, and it be dinner time and you still haven't gotten a chance to do it. So finding that time in your morning routine to do that is imperative. And I also want to make sure you touch on, Brett, we talked about this before the show and we've talked about it in the past. You work from home, you've got 3 daughters there, and your wife. So really, this is your opportunity in the morning. While it might seem like a lot for some people, this is your opportunity to kind of gather your thoughts for the day, prepare yourself for everything that's kind of coming up. And that's why utilizing a little bit more extra time before everybody else maybe wakes up in the house is a good thing to do.
No, absolutely. And I wake up very early. I'm up by 5:30 at the latest every day. It used to be 4:30, but then I realized it was a little extreme. but I'm up by 5:30 and out of bed every day. And to Dave's point, I need that alone time. It gets me square. It lets me breathe. That alone time. And I think we all, as fathers, need a little bit of alone time. The work, the kids, everything can kind of get going. And then you all of a sudden, it's the end of, like David said, it's the end of the night. Oh, I didn't get a workout in. It's the end of the night. Oh, it's dinner time, shower, your routine, boom, go to bed. So for me, getting up early gives me that alone time. My morning routine probably only takes an hour, but I do buffer myself 2 hours in the morning before my kids wake up, because then once they're up, we all know I got a bunch of thundering herd coming down the stairs into the kitchen ready for breakfast and this and that. And it's super, super important to me to get it done that way. So I have that time. Like I said, try to carve out 15, 20, 30 minutes if you can for yourself. And the morning routine is a great place for that. Dave, probably not for you, because Bryce gets up before I do, I'm pretty sure, every single morning. So sometimes that can be difficult.
Yeah, Bryce is raring to go at 6 o'clock. He's got he's out of his bed. Ask him what we're doing for the day. That morning routine has to start really early at our house.
Yeah, our kids couldn't be any different. Dave's kids and my kids get along great, but his kids are up before the sunrise. And if I let Finley sleep, she'll sleep until 10 o'clock every single morning. The only 4-year-old I know that'll sleep like a college student.
Yeah. So Brett, you've got your morning routine, right? I know you pretty much do the same routine every day.
Yes.
But there's a lot of fathers out there who can't do the same thing every day. For my own morning routine, Casey gets up on Tuesdays and Thursdays during the 5-day work week, and she goes and meets a running group, and they go for a run super early. So I can't get out of the house and go for my run those days, right? So can you talk a little bit about just the adaptability of a morning routine, and how it's okay to maybe move pieces around to make it function properly for you and your family? Because we certainly don't want to take our wives out of their morning routine either. It's not just fathers. We all need to be working, together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the number one thing your morning routine can be is adaptable. It should be like a chameleon. A lot of fathers that we talk to, Dave, and that I know personally, they travel a lot for work, or vacations come up in the summertime, and that's the number one time where that morning routine can get altered. But the key to it is making it adaptable. It doesn't have to be hard, your morning routine. It just has to be a routine. So what I mean by that is, so your example of Casey goes running on Tuesdays and Thursdays, then to adapt your morning routine just on Tuesdays and Thursdays, it actually gives you an opportunity to get better in other areas of your life. So you go for a run every other day of the week except Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. when you go. So what you could do to take advantage of that time is, don't alter your morning routine. All you really are is altering your workout. You're not altering your morning routine per se. So that Tuesday and Thursday, grab the dumbbells, grab the resistance bands, give yourself a good stretch on the ground in the morning when you wake up, or knock out some push-ups and some bicep curls and all those things that you can still do, and you don't have to truly disrupt your morning routine.
Yeah, I think that's the key point right there, right? Is a lot of times what people will do is they'll let a circumstance change, how they go about their day. Well, we just can't have that. So if you've got something else that comes up that morning that you can't do that particular thing, you can still wake up at the same time. You can still stretch. You can still do all those other pieces of the health piece. You can drink, your apple cider vinegar and your honey and all that stuff, and you just make a substitution. And that's what it comes down to. You can't let everything that's happening around you dictate your morning. You need to dictate your morning.
Yeah, 100%. And the whole point of my morning routine, the way it is, and I think the whole point of morning routines for other fathers and mothers out there is, when you finish your morning routine, Dave, I and all those that do them have already accomplished so much that it's going to take something really, really sideways to feel like you've wasted your day, because you're accomplishing so much in that short time. Like I said earlier in the show, we accumulate so many little wins that it's going to really take something to derail you when it comes to the rest of your day. And the adaptability thing, Dave, is as simple as start with one thing. Start by setting your alarm, and then add one thing, then maybe add another thing. Take something away. It can always be a work in progress. As long as the routine itself stays there, the work in progress is the important part.
Right.
So I'll give you one more example. I just started, it's been a little bit more than a week. I think it's a week and a half. I just started something where I've added it to my morning routine where I don't touch my cell phone in the morning. My alarm goes off and I leave it on the stand. I leave it on the nightstand charging because that phone is a shiny distraction. And I don't want to take away from my morning routine by having the phone in my pocket because, as we all know, we go everywhere with our phones. So by me giving myself the first 30 to 45 minutes of my morning routine, my reading and my health and wellness portion without my phone, I don't give myself the opportunity to get distracted. I stay disciplined in my morning routine because discipline is key in all things finance and fitness and faith. Discipline is key. So by leaving my phone, and this is something that I'm just trying. It's been a week and a half. I may not end up doing it this way. I may change it, but that's the whole point, Dave. We can make it longer. We can make it shorter, and we can, and just see where it goes. The foundation of the routine is the key. And, so really enough about my morning routine. I appreciate the question, and guys, please answer, send in questions about morning routines and anything that we talk about on the podcast. So to kind of segue over to you, Dave, we've talked about how to start, where to start. What's the next step in your personal finance goals? We said where to start. We both realize we need to look in the mirror when we have those tough conversations. Where do we start? Where do we go next after that portion of our finance?
Yeah. So at this point, based off of our conversation last week, what everyone should have at this point is an understanding of where you stand financially, the amount of debt that you have, all debt, credit cards, car loans, medical debt, any debt you can imagine, student loans. You have a track on your savings. How much do you have in your checking, your regular savings account, your retirement account, any retirement or college savings funds for your kids, right? We've got all that information together. It's on paper. We know exactly where we stand. So now this is a perfect time as we start looking ahead to the next month. We've got April right around the corner. And one thing that you should do every single month before the month begins is create a budget. Now, that's the dreaded B word, right? Everybody hears budget and they get scared. They think, "Oh my God, I can't spend any money. My life is over. I don't want to play with a budget." But the truth of the matter is budgets aren't a lockdown. They're actually freedom. They give you the freedom to spend money and spend money wisely. And
hey guys, it's been a great show, but Dave said budget. I got to run. So thank you all for listening. I'll talk to you next week. I'm kidding.
But that's what most people think when they hear the word budget. You start to freak out. You're like, no, this is restricting my ability to do things, but it's not. And let me continue and tell you why it's not. But there's two things that I want to make abundantly clear right now, so that everyone knows where I stand. I do not believe in debt whatsoever. The only debt I encourage people to have is when you go buy a home, but you got to do it the smart way. And that's the only debt. I don't believe in credit cards. I don't believe in car loans. I don't believe in student loans. So I want to get that out of the way right now. If you think I'm going to be encouraging anyone to use debt for anything, you're wrong. Secondly, if you have a spouse in the home, you need to go through this process with your spouse. They need to be on board. Because if you go through the process of creating a budget and figure out your numbers and you stick to it, but your spouse who shares an account doesn't, and they're spending frivolously or whatever it may be, you're never going to make any progress or headway. So that's something that everyone needs to know is you've got to be bought in together for this to work. So as we start diving into a budget, like I said, we start the budget the week or so before the next month begins. You want to tally up everything that you make, your average take-home pay. If you work a standard 40-hour job or you get a salary and there's no overtime, those numbers are very easy. You take your however many paychecks you get a month, you add them up, and that goes on the top of your budget. And that's where you start. And from there, you work yourself down. Now, the most important categories that someone needs, you need your housing to be taken care of. So that's either rent or mortgage. That's one of the first things to go in. The next is food, because we all need food to survive. Electricity and water, those types of utilities that you need inside your home. And then transportation. Those are the main pieces of your budget that you need to make sure are taken care of. And from there, you'll work yourself down the budget. And as the importance level decreases, they go and they kind of slide down the budget. Now we want to incorporate everything. And I mean everything. If you stop for coffee every morning, you've got to put that into your budget. If you have 7 TV subscriptions for Netflix and Hulu and YouTube and all these different things, they each need to be in there. If you use credit cards, if you've got multiple credit cards, I want you to list all your minimum payments on there. Okay. Not what you think you can spend right now, just the minimums. And we'll get on to more of that later. But you want to fill out the budget for every single category you have. And there might be some obscure ones that you're not even thinking about. Maybe it's the gym membership that you signed up for 8 months ago that you've gone to 3 times, but they're still charging you $10 a month, and that keeps coming out of your account. So you need to wrangle all of those things and put those into the budget. And then you get a real picture now of where you stand. And what I found when I did my first budget was the number that I was spending was far greater than the number I had coming in. Right. And that is a rude awakening, because what do you do at that point? Right. And I think, Brett, that's why a lot of people have credit cards, because they can't control their spending.
Right.
They have all these things. They have all the things that they can control every month. They know they've got their car loan coming in. They've got their mortgage, but then they go out to lunch. They're like, oh, I'm going to go to Chipotle today, or I'm going to go here. I'm going to swipe my card. And at the end of the month, you've got $500, $600, $700 or more for miscellaneous expenses that you weren't planning on at all. And that is where now you have a budget. You can see where you've spent those things and now what you need to do to get out of that. So that is really the key, is identifying all those categories and making sure everything is accounted for, giving every single dollar that you bring into the home a name and a place to go.
Disclaimer: don't cancel your gym membership. Don't listen to them.
I didn't say cancel it. What I said was you need to make sure you're accounting for it, right? Because if you don't put that in, and then you're going to be $10 short, because again, you've got to give every single dollar a name. So if you forget about those $10 to, whatever gym it may be, at the end of the month, you've allocated every dollar. So every dollar is somewhere. Well, now where does that $10 come from? Now you're short $10, right? So there's a few things you can do if you ended up like me on your first budget. I've got more going out than I have coming in. So what do you do, right? The first thing you can do is go through your budget, and you can cut on your spending. This is really where the rubber meets the road. This is where you decide, is this what I want to do? Do I want to be financially independent? Do I want to feel free from this burden of debt that I have all the time? For me, it was a sinking feeling. It was something I absolutely hated, and I made the decision to never do it again. So this is the point where you make that decision, because what I'm going to say next is probably going to scare a lot of people, right? So by cut your spending, you decide, I am not going to do these things that I've done. The bad decisions I've made for the last however many years are going to stop right now. So instead of buying lunch every day at $10 or $15 a clip now, I'm going to pack my lunch, and I'm going to make a healthy option and bring it to work every day. And that's going to save me X amount of dollars. So you take that money off your budget line and you shrink it. Right. So for myself, when I started this process, and quite honestly, most of the numbers haven't changed much. Casey and I have continued to live on our initial budget. We allocated, when we were going through this process, $100 a month for going out to eat. That's as a family. That's not a week. That's a month. Right. And that probably terrifies people, because most people probably spend in the neighborhood of $100 every few days on food. So those are the type of cuts I'm talking about. You need to cut in deep, and you need to go right after it. So cut your spending. That's one thing you can do. A lot of times people have a lot of junk lying around their house, things that they never use. Go out and sell that stuff. Bring a little bit more money into the home that way. Sell the things you can. Have a tag sale, have a yard sale, whatever it may be. Post some stuff on Facebook Marketplace or wherever you want to sell stuff, and get some money coming in that way. And then the last option might seem a little bit aggressive, but it's go get a part-time job. You can go to any window front in town, any town in America, and they've got a sign that says, now hiring. Go in, fill out an application, and start bringing in some more money to start knocking through this problem that you've created, right? So those are the 3 things you can do immediately to make a difference and really kind of get that budget under control. Brett, you look like you want to question something.
I do have a question about your budget.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
In general, so kind of break it down in layman's terms for someone like myself. I have a commission-based job. So
Mhm.
my income could be, it is, I mean, it's never the same exact every single day, every single paycheck. My income varies from month to month. So how do you attack a budget? How am I supposed to attack a budget when when my income fluctuates up and down every single month?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's that's the case with a lot of people. So, depending on how long you've been in the job that you're in the commission-based job you're in, you have a baseline, right? So, if you've been in the job 12 months, you can go back and you can look and you can say, all right, this is what I made each month for the last year. What was the minimum amount I made one month? Okay, what was the least amount that I brought home?
Mhm.
And that's your baseline.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the number you use on the top of the budget. You say this is the amount I know I can count on. Now, like I said earlier, you're going to hone those first few categories into that money. So you've got your food, you've got your housing, you've got your utilities, and you got your transportation. Those are the first things you attack. So those get priority on the budget list because without those, we can't survive.
Okay.
So out of that, out of that guaranteed chunk, you're going to bring home, that's what you fill in. And then everything else just gets tiered throughout. And at the end of the day, the least important stuff goes on the bottom. And if you have a month where you don't bring home what you're expected to bring home, well, then those things don't happen that month. Okay, maybe it's the going out to dinner fund, or it's the entertainment fund, or whatever it may be. Those things get slashed that month, and that's just how it has to work. You talked about it with your morning routine. You need discipline. You need discipline with your budget. You need discipline with your personal finances. If you go through this process and you make a budget and then you don't stick to it, what was the purpose? What was the point? You're doing this for a reason, and you need to let the process play out. So discipline is key to it.
Okay. Now, one more question. Now, if someone hits, let's just say someone hits rock bottom in it's March 12th. What's your advice? Do you tell them to wait until the end of the month? It's because I know it sounds like you do. It's a budgeting is like a monthly thing. I'm assuming, if I'm understanding correctly, you want to start with a budget at the end of the month. But can you start it? I guess my question is, can you start it whenever?
Yeah, you can start it whenever, but it's a little bit more tricky to pick where you are. So if you're mid pay
Okay.
cycle, but yeah, you can start at mid month. If you're if you're listening to this and you haven't gotten your last paychecks of the month, you can pick it up from there. You can expect, all right, I've still got this amount of expenses left this month that are coming, and I've
Hmm.
got this paycheck coming in. Let me budget that, just
Okay.
that portion. So you can't do the whole month, but you can do what you still have coming. Now, the idea of why you do it, leading up to the month coming is because all of those expenses that are going to hit during that entire month, right? So you can get a handle on them and be prepared for them. Now, someone will say, well, you know, I'm right on this brink. I don't like, what am I going to do if something happens? What
Hmm.
if I have an emergency, right? So that's why people say they want to have credit cards around in case of emergency. So here's the deal: when you get your budget laid out, the first goal is to have $2,000 put aside in a savings account. Okay. So if you already have $2,000 in a savings account, you're there. Congratulations. That's the first step of this process. If you don't, all the extra money from your budget, after you've allocated everything, all the extra is going into that savings account until you can reach $2,000. Now, here comes the big one. Once you hit that number, once you hit $2,000, you take the cards out of your wallet, all the credit cards, and you cut them up, and you don't ever use them again, because that's the credit cards are the opportunity to blow the budget and increase those numbers, the minimum payments, instead of decreasing the minimum payments. And we'll get into the different ways of paying off debt on a future episode. But for right now, once you hit that $2,000 mark in the savings, it's time to cut up the credit cards. That's all you really need for a true emergency. You can work through with that as long as you have your budget in control and you have some savings there. You don't need the credit cards anymore. And I think that's where people get scared. It's been talked about for so many years that I've got this credit card just for emergencies. You don't need it. If you have an emergency fund, that's what an emergency fund is for. It's not for credit cards. So, getting the budget in place, having a little savings account, you can take huge strides moving forward.
So let me ask you another question. So
Sure.
how does someone, and I will admit I like to spend money for no reason sometimes. How do you curb someone that does spend? Oh, let's say overspend. How do you help curb someone, or what's your advice to someone like me who maybe overspends a little bit? How do you help curb and reel that in a little bit?
So, one of the things with overspending is the fact that people have access to unlimited amounts of money, right? You'll have a credit card. So you say, oh, I'm just going to go to the store, I'm going to buy this. And you end up buying two or three extra things. And that's really the problem. Back really, the numbers stay that about 80% more is spent on a credit card than if you were to pay with cash. So those numbers, they're skewed. The smaller the transaction, the bigger the percentage difference. As you go up, that starts to decrease. But like, as a very simple terms, right? If you go to a vending machine with the intent of buying a snack, well, you get there and you got a card and you're like, well, I'll buy a snack and I'm thirsty, I'm going to buy the drink too, right? So now
Yep.
you 200% more is what you spent, right?
Right.
Whereas if you have cash and you're like, you know what, no, I've got this dollar in my pocket, I'm going to go and I'm gonna spend it wisely. I'm just going to buy the snack. That's all I need, right? So overspending is a result of the ability to have access to funds that aren't yours. So if you eliminate that and you take the credit cards out of the equation, you can't do that. So
Okay.
um, one of the things Casey and I do is we have cash envelopes. So instead of using our debit card throughout the month, we take out everything in cash and we keep envelopes in our safe. And as we need things, we take from that. So when I go to the grocery store, I do the grocery shopping. I go to the grocery store, I take out, we allocate $150 a week for groceries for the family. So I take that $150 with me to the store. And as I go through the grocery store, I'm tallying everything up in my head as I go. And once I run out of money, I can't buy any more groceries that month. And that's really, you have to stop spending with the credit cards.
I'm so guilty. I want that candy bar at the register every time. And I know from experience, my Dave and I have similar financial, let's call them ideologies, or however you want to talk about it. And I am not a credit card guy whatsoever, but I was so guilty in the past of that. Like you just mentioned, you're going to grab a candy bar, you're going to grab a drink at the register, you're going to grab a new pack of gum, you're going to grab something because the kid's jumping up and down and say they want something. And this way, I totally understand. It just it actually forces you to not do that stuff because you're on a journey to get away from doing that stuff.
I use the simple example of a vending machine, right? But you think about what this can do with people that have an overspending problem when they're shopping online and you're on social media and all these things that you always, the things that you look at most keep popping up in ads throughout your social media scroll. So it's so easy to just go and be like, oh yeah, I want that pair of shoes, or yeah, that looks cool, I'm going to buy that, or whatever it may be. And you lose track of it. And by the end of the month, I mean, you've got so many extra transactions on your credit card that your budget is completely blown. So for this to work, the credit cards need to go away completely. Now, if you don't have $2,000 yet and you feel that sense of I need something there, at least take the credit cards out of your wallet and lock them away in a safe so that they're not on you every single day. And make a promise to yourself, to your spouse, that we're going to stick to this budget. We're not going to use those credit cards. And we're finally going to make the change and start pushing ourselves out of debt into financial freedom so we can live a better life.
Yeah, we can live a full force life and
Full force life.
be the example. And one thing I want to touch on here about budgeting and about morning routines. I didn't touch on this earlier in the show, and I wanted to make sure I made a point of this is, and I'll let you attest to the financial side of it, but from the morning routine side, we must never forget as fathers that our kids are watching everything that we do. So for them to see us, me, Dave, anybody out there following a schedule and staying disciplined and staying on track with their morning routine, they see that and they learn from that. You may think they're not picking up cues and picking up everything that you're doing, but I promise you, your children are watching you all the time, especially, essentially when they're not sleeping, they're watching you all the time if they're at the house or they're near you. So them seeing you promoting good habits and good health and good fitness, it's a snowball effect for the kids to stay on a journey of healthy living, and they're going to make better decisions. And this is just my children outside of Caroline, my middle child. My kids never want to eat garbage. They never ask for fast food. They never ask for this. The occasional donut maybe is their kind of their kryptonite. But by us as fathers setting the foundations to good morning routines, to good finances, to good health and wellness, and good money habits, we're setting them up for so much success as they grow up with us, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. Both Kendall and Bryce have a chore chart on the side of our refrigerator at home. And they've got a list of chores that they do each week. And there's a monetary value assigned to each one. So whatever chores they do, they get paid for, right? And they earn that money, and they're getting a chance to understand what that's like to manage money. And once they get it, they put it into 3 different categories. And by the way, if they don't do the chores, they don't get paid. It's not an allowance. This is a pay for work, situation. So once they have that money, yeah, they don't mess around, man. You're not getting paid to do nothing. So they put this money into the envelopes. They got a spend envelope, a save envelope, and they have a give envelope. And they get to use those when there's something they want to save for and buy, that Casey and I aren't going to buy for them. They go and they take their money. And it's the greatest feeling in the world as a dad to watch my kids learn the principles that we live by and start to implement them in their own life. And one of my favorite stories, this is when we're back in Connecticut. I'll never forget Kendall. I think this was before Bryce was born. Kendall came into the store with me. We went to Target. And you know how every time you go into the stores, people are trying to push their cards at you. So we're at the register and the woman goes, "Would you like to apply for the Target Red credit card?" And Kendall, I mean, she was 4 at the time. She pipes right up before I could say anything. And she's like, "Credit cards? We don't use credit cards at our house. They got us into lots of trouble." And I was like, to me, that was heartwarming. And I was like, man, my kids are getting it. Because like you said, they're listening, they're paying attention all the time. And that just proves it.
Yeah. And it's just like me when the girls want to go for a run. That just knows, I know they're watching. There's no better feeling for me in the world than the kids exercising with me or wanting to go for a walk or go for a run or go for a bike ride or whatever the case may be, go for a hike. It just gives me the most satisfaction as a father and feel like I'm doing something right, So
yeah.
With that in mind, Dave, I mean, we've discussed how to start, where to start, and we're building on our finance and our fitness journeys, one day at a time, dads out there. So just stick with it. We're here for you. Reach out, send comments, send emails. We want to continue to grow as Full Force Fathers and help as many dads that could possibly want help. We are here for you. And please keep sending messages, keep following along on our journey. This is a journey for us as well. And we're just so happy to have you in. So with that, Dave, I'm going to pass it over to you and let you send us off.
Yeah. So Full Force Fathers, please continue to follow us on Instagram at Full Force Fathers. Take a listen to the podcast. Share it if you found some value here. Help us get the word out to as many fathers as we can. Work hard. Be there for your kids, your family. Live a full force life. We'll talk to you soon.